Hello and welcome. You're listening to Start Again with Shaunna Lee, the place where you will be reminded that it's never too late and you're never too old to do the damn thing. So stick around if you're ready to vibe higher and be inspired to chase your dreams. Together, we will uncover your soul's truest desires. Now, if you're ready, let's get started. Well, hello, and welcome back to another Simply Shaunna episode. Today, I want to talk to you about a question I actually get often. How are you so good with names? So, the thing is, remembering names hasn't always been easy for me, but I created a plan to change that for myself, and I want to share that with you today. I have actually started paying attention to people's words, and it surprises me how many people walk around claiming that they are downright terrible with names? You'll hear them say, I'm so bad with names. I'm terrible with names. I can never remember names. And perhaps, in fact, you are saying those things too. I actually used to say the same things as well. For years, I was convinced that I was horrible with names until one day I was like, you know what? I don't actually like the way this feels anymore. And I love when people remember my name. You may have noticed it's not very typical. So when someone remembers to call me Shaunna and not Shannon, Sean, Shanna, it really does stand out. It means a lot to me. Fun fact, my third husband could never remember my name in the early days of dating. He actually called me Shanna a couple times, and then it sort of became this running joke, and he called me Shanna for months on purpose. And then after we were married, one of his aunts actually called me Shonda for years before I finally mentioned it to my mother-in-law and she corrected her. So yeah, when someone gets my name right, it matters and it leaves an impact. And I want to do what I can to remember other people's names as a result. So once I made this conscious choice to be better at this whole thing, I started reading articles and doing some research so that I could figure out how to improve my name recognition. I also started observing other people who seemed to be really good at it to mimic what they were doing. I started asking myself, what are they doing? How are they doing it? I talked to them and I asked questions. I simply got curious. And here's what I discovered. First and foremost, you have to decide that you're going to be good with names or just that you want to be. And then the way you describe it and the words you use matters so much. I started by just simply saying, I'm trying to get better at remembering names instead of I'm so bad with names. I really do think the words we use are super powerful, but it's also helping to facilitate a new belief we're trying to create. So, by saying I'm getting better with names, it leaves room for improvement, but it also allows some grace when we forget from others. So, today I would tell you I'm good with names and I do remember them often, but it's not by accident. It's not because I'm lucky or smarter than the next person. It's not because I just happen to be good at it. No, it is because I decided I wanted to be good at it. I chose to change what I didn't like about myself. And I started making the effort and doing the things that would get me closer and closer to that very thing. So I have some tips for you all today so that you too can say you are getting better with names. First, it's deciding that it can be different and changing the language you use and how you describe this ability to remember names. So that's step one. Step two is the very second that you meet someone, then they tell you their name and you instantly have forgotten it. That is the moment that you stop them and you say, I'm so sorry. You told me your name. I've already forgotten it. What's your name again? There's a couple things that will happen when you do this. One, you're going to be a little bit embarrassed that you already forgot their name in like 3 seconds, right? So the fact that you're saying that out loud, it's going to solidify their name to your memory just a little bit better, merely because you're in this altered state of embarrassment. Tony Robbins actually said something along the lines of true change occurs in an altered state of consciousness or something like that. Essentially, you have to be in an altered state to create true change. And embarrassment counts. I promise this is an important ingredient that you won't want to forget. So, when I have inevitably forgotten this new friend's name, because listen, this still happens all the time, I will instantly say, I'm sorry, remind me of your name. And throughout the conversation or the event that we're attending, I will, in my mind, reuse their name often and over again. It's through that repetition that it will get easier and easier to remember their name, not only that day, but when I see them again in the future. So I don't necessarily do any of those typical tips and tricks that I heard, like alliteration with their name or something about their appearance to help me remember. You know what I'm talking about. Like the one redhead at the party is called Rita, or Samantha is particularly smiley, or Gary happens to be wearing a green shirt. So you're calling them redhead Rita and smiley Samantha or green shirt Gary. I mean, some of those can be super helpful for some people, but honestly, when when I tried those things, I spent more time trying to remember what Gary had about him that started with a G than what his name was. It essentially was more distracting to me than it was helpful. The other thing that I find really handy is that I make it fun. So, step 3 is to make it a game. And in this game, I am quizzing myself. I'm trying to remember names throughout the afternoon or the evening. Listen, you can all remember being somewhere where a new person walks into the room and they know no one. So, someone, usually the host, will go around the room and introduce them to like 10 or 15 people all at one time. Instantly, this poor new person will say, I'm never going to remember any of your names. And honestly, why do we say these things to ourselves? Mostly, I think it's because then we're off the hook and we don't even have to try to remember anyone's names. But here's the thing for me, I'm all about verbal communication and interpersonal relationships. Like the most important or most interesting part of any history class to me was what a prominent figure was like in their personal life. Like, I don't really care about accolades or accomplishments, but tell me how many times you were married and did your children like you? That's what I find interesting. And so that is how I tie it all back to my third step. So it's especially helpful if you're at a party where there's a bunch of people who are all coupled up. And I don't necessarily mean like romantic couples. This first actually started working for me at children's birthday parties when you'd have a child arrive with a parent and they were both together. So the idea is that there's a pair or a matching, if you will. And so it's kind of like a memory matching game that I play with myself throughout the party. So it helps me when I'm going to remember Sally's name by remembering that her mom's name is Joanne. And then I know that Sally and Joanne go together. They match, if you will. So when I'm doing the activity of repetitions of their name in my head, and obviously when you talk to the person, you say their name out loud as often as possible. For me, it's the repetition that works. So when I go into those party environments and there's a bunch of new faces and names that I'm trying to remember, I will literally spend the whole party quizzing myself and looking around the room, remembering what their names are, remembering something about them. What's amazing to me is just how much I actually remember about the person in addition to just their name by this one little game of remembering who they belong to. So these are my suggestions. They're very simple and basic, but you probably are wondering, what on earth does remembering names have anything to do with starting again or creating a life of your dreams? What it comes down to is this. Primarily, this whole thing is about learning that you have the power to choose differently. You have the ability to change your mind. You get to decide that you can now be good at something that you used to really suck at. And the biggest obstacle we have is always in our head. So when you decide that you can do this thing, which is simply to get better at remembering people's names and then you actually do it, there's this beautiful magical thing that happens where you start to uncover your power to do other things as well. So, if you can go from being bad at names to actually remembering and being good at it, what else can you do? What else can you change? The entire point of this episode is this: you get to choose to believe anything you want to. And did you know that our beliefs are merely thoughts that have been repeated? So that means if you repeat a new thought often enough, it will, in fact, become a belief that you hold to be true. This is the primary reason why mantras and affirmations work. You can actually create new belief structures around remembering names, or how money gets to work for you, or the work that you're allowed to do, or even the types of relationships that you get to have, all based on the thoughts you tell yourself. Now, obviously, you can't merely repeat, I am a millionaire, and then instantaneously become one. But I promise you this: you will not become a millionaire if you don't believe it's possible. Literally, everything you want, have, and attract in your life actually starts with your beliefs. So here's the tricky thing about beliefs, though. We don't always know which ones are guiding this whole subconscious ship we have going on. Science tells us that 90% of how we react and perceive our reality is actually based on subconscious thoughts and beliefs. But it's tough to know sometimes that our fucked up beliefs is the thing that's keeping us stuck. Sometimes it really does take an outsider looking in to help us see those things. And this is why I always suggest journaling. It can help you uncover what you are walking around believing and you don't even realize it. Having someone ask you the right questions will help you to start uncovering those things. And this is where a coach can help. This is where talk therapy can help. And even just writing out the answers to particular questions can help you. So, with that, I will close out another short and sweet Simply Shaunna episode, and I'll let you get on with your day. Let's go make some magic happen. But don't forget, let me know how it's going. You can find me on all the socials at SimplyShaunna. So send me a DM. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, listen. Are you struggling to find what your true purpose really is? You should try journaling. At the very least, it will get you to a better feeling place than where you are right now. I've created a set of journal prompts to get you on your way to discovering who you truly are and where you want to go from here. My free download is called Journal Yourself to Joy, and it's available at ShaunnaLee.com under Free Stuff. These are my tried and true journal prompts that will raise your energy, increase your positivity, and brighten your day. Download yours today.